Hey, welcome back to the Too Fast Tactical channel. Today we're actually going to get around to building out this Wuelf Glock 19 slide. Now I did a review on this a few months ago actually, and I'm just now kind of cycling back around to actually build this out. This whole Polymer 80 Glock 19 build has been kind of backburnered for a while, and COVID is kind of thrown a monkey wrench into the game, and other stuff has been higher priority and so on. So anyway, just in case you didn't watch that video, this Wuelf Glock 19 slide got off of eBay. I did talk with the manufacturer, the owner of Wuelf. He actually contacted me due to the video that I did on his slide, and we had a nice conversation. Very knowledgeable person about engineering and machining and so on. So this was a very good price. You can see this differs from a standard Glock 19 slide a little bit. We've got some serrations here. You've got this on the edge here. You've got this beveled edge here, and, you know, and there's different flavors available. This one also has a top cut for an RMR red dot. This slide comes with a top cover, which is actually follows the contours of this slide. So if you don't put a red dot on here, you can still, you know, you still have this cover on here, and it doesn't look like an add-on item. It flows with the design of the slide, and the color is pretty much spot on as well. So this was very reasonably priced when I picked it up. And it's an unfinished slide. Oh, I should mention that these two little hex screws right here, the slide actually comes with some longer ones. So depending upon what type of red dot you mount here, you've got either these two or you've got a couple of longer screws. So that's what it comes with. Now, due to the review that I did on this a few months ago, one of my subscribers commented that these ship with the liner installed, and I had to go back and check because I assumed this was a completely these shipped stripped, but the liner is indeed installed in there. So if you know you do pick up one of these slides, double check to see if there's a liner installed, because there definitely is one in there. Now I had went ahead and picked up a liner installation tool, something I didn't have in my gunsmithing toolbox, because normally I work on these, I don't assemble them, so I didn't actually have a specific tool to install the liner, and that's what this is for. So you would put the liner on the end of this and stick it in there, and then use a rubber or a plastic tipped mallet and pound it down into place. But since there's already a liner in there, I don't have to do that. So this will remain unused for the time being and go into my toolbox. Incidentally, this particular tool is made by, I believe it's NDZ, ndzperformance.com. Picked this up off of eBay. This was relatively inexpensive. It was $6 or $7. So moving on, okay, so also for reference, this is the Polymer 80 lower receiver. I did a review of this, and I did a build out of this in other videos, so check my other videos. We've got, I can't show finishing of lower receivers, so I did not show the build out of this in any of my videos. You'll have to look elsewhere to find a how-to tutorial for how to build out a Polymer 80. And also how to install lower parts kits. Those things are kind of prevented. YouTube prevents those from you know, content creators from putting those on their channels nowadays. Anyway, this Polymer 80 actually was Robin's Egg Blue, and I color dyed this to black, and that's a that was a video that I was making, but that video got completely screwed up and it was unusable. So unfortunately, I don't have a video on how to color dye it, but you can reference other color dyeing videos on YouTube. Look specifically for color dyeing Glock PMags. That same process in the RIT dye is what you would use for this. So my recommendation, if you're going to color dye a Polymer 80, build it out first, get it completely finished. Well, build it out, do the machine work on it, get that completely done, then color dye it. Don't color dye it and then finish it out, because you'll have the underlying color showing through if you do that. So the color is it's a pretty close match to this Wuelf slide. It's a little bit different, and that's going to be because this RIT dye is, I think it's a super dark gray and it's over a light blue, so it's not a black. It's like a dark gray. So that's what it kind of comes down to. Anyway, so let's see. What are we going to be installing on this? We have a Lone Wolf Distributors, a guide rod and spring, stainless steel guide rod and spring assembly. This is specifically for the Glock 19. This carries a model number of LWD-GRA1923. This is suitable for the Glock 19, 23, 32, and the 38. Lone Wolf Distributors, you can find them by searching for their name. This item, I actually picked this up off of eBay for 20 bucks. So I don't know. This is a captured guide rod and spring assembly. I've used stainless steel captured guide rod and tube assemblies on my Glock 23 and my second gen Glock 19, and I've liked them very much. So I went ahead and picked up one of these. Most slide completion kits are generic, so you buy one for a 9mm slide completion kit, and then you've got to get your guide rod and spring assembly. So the Glock 17 would be different than the Glock 19, and so on. So we have that item, and then we have another upper slide completion kit by Lone Wolf Distributors. This is their model number LWD-SLIDE Kit-9. So this is their upper completion kit for 9mm slides. So this is unopened, and we'll open this. All right. Baggie inside of a baggie. All right, so we've got our firing pins, our springs, 3 springs. We have this is the tubular guide that I was talking about before. There's already a black one in there. This one happens to be white. I'm not going to take the existing one out to install this. There's no point. So let's see, we've got our little spring capture pieces that are in white for the firing pin. We got our, I believe that's a firing pin lock, and we have our back plate. The back plate is just plain. There's nothing special on that. It's, what is it? Is it plastic? I think it's plastic. It's very smooth plastic. And that's basically, well, maybe, this is the ejector. That's metal, of course. And this assembly is metal. And our firing pin lock, I believe, that is metal as well. Everything seems to be in order. Seems to be a fairly well-made kit from what I can tell. I'm used to looking at OEM Glock parts when I've taken apart slides. I'm not an expert with any of those parts, but you know, everything here looks to be appropriate and in place. So let's go ahead and get started with assembling these parts. I'm going to assemble everything, then we'll install them in the slide. All right, so first up we're going to do our extractor and our firing pin safety. The smallest spring in your kit can go into your firing pin safety. You might have to push it down in there a little bit, but it will stay in there. And we'll take our slide, and you see the rounded circular part of the extractor drops in, and there's a little hole that it drops into. All right. It's not captured at this point, so if you're going to move the slide around, you might want to keep your finger over that so it doesn't fall out. And then we're going to take our firing pin safety with the spring, which I kind of pressed in there already. And we're going to push it down. And once we push it down there, it should lock against the ejector, and it will be captured, and the ejector will be captured. And that's basically all we need to do for the extractor and the firing pin safety. So let's move on to the next part. All right, next up, we're going to be putting together our extractor rod and the spring and the cap. That's the metal rod and this spring. The spring just slides down onto the end, not onto this flat, not onto the flat end. It slides onto the tipped end. And I'm sorry, I was test fitting this off camera and I put it on there, and it's on there, and I don't want to yank on it and stretch out the spring or anything, so I'm not going to take it off again, but it just snaps right on there. And then our cap goes into the end of the spring. That's pretty straightforward, and it just slides into place. So that's the assembly of the extractor rod, spring, and the cap. All right, with our extractor rod assembled, we're going to go ahead and install that, and that slides into this channel right here. Actually, the spring goes up, so something to keep, well, I would help if it was in frame. It's going to go into this channel right here, the small channel. The spring goes up, and it just slides down in there, and that's all there is to that. So that takes care of the ejector rod. Next up, let's go ahead and assemble the firing pin. This is a little bit tricky, but it's easy enough to do. Just make sure you don't launch the spring. Not that I've ever launched a spring before, but just a word of caution. All right, moving on to the firing pin. We're getting down to the last of the parts. We've got this sleeve, and we've got our firing pin. So the firing pin's just going to slide into the sleeve, so it moves like that. And then we've got only one spring left. The spring slides over like so. Now this part is the part that's a little bit tricky, because you've got to depress the spring and install those little bitty white, I don't even know what those are called. Anyway, the small end goes down, the tabbed parts go up, and there is it's going to have to be right down in here is where that's going to be installed. So what we're going to do is this is going to be a little bit tricky. You've got to hold the spring down and get those little pieces in place. And I may have to end up doing this off of camera, because I think I need to put it in my lap. Maybe not. Yep. I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm sorry about taking this off screen, but you know, if you try to do this like I was doing this on a surface like this, you have a lot of pressure on this spring, and I just couldn't hold this spring down. This spring has some oil on it, which I tried to clean off, but it makes it rather slippery for me to hold on to. So what I ended up doing, I couldn't find anything that would actually go up inside of here. I was thinking if I had something up inside of there to hold the firing pin up against the top of this sleeve, it would make it easier for me to push the spring down. So what I ended up doing was, you can see over here, I ended up putting this against the edge of my workbench like so, and putting some downward pressure here on the sleeve and keeping the tip of this firing pin against the workbench. It was easier for me to push the spring down to get these two little plastic capture pieces in there. So once you get them in there, hold them together, and you may have to twist them around just a little bit to make sure that they're properly captured on the firing pin. But that seems to me easier than just putting it on the workbench and pushing down on the spring, because you saw in the last section I was struggling a little bit because the spring, just with the oil on it, was slipping around in my fingers. So that's how I did it. And sorry it wasn't on camera, but I think you'll get the idea of what needs to be done there with the firing pin. Okay, with firing pin assembly done, the installation of this is real simple. It just slides in like so, and that's basically it. So we're almost done. You see, this is real easy so far. We have our back plate that needs to be installed, and you'll have to push down on the firing pin sleeve and the extractor rod while you slide this into place. And let's see, let me get this kind of started. Okay, I always take stuff off camera and put it in my lap because it's easier to work with. What we may need to do, we may need a punch. Let's see, I've got some Delrin punches here. All right, so this is a plastic Delrin type of punch, which is used for like installing sights. We're going to need to push down on these two pieces while we slide this into place. And I'm not quite sure I can show this on camera while I'm trying to do it. But we've got to get the... okay, I'll try and do this. I'll try to show this part on camera. We're going to push down on both of those as we slide. Now, we're almost got it. We've got... looks like I'm going to need a punch after all. I've got to push down on the extractor rod. All right. And slides right into place. And boom, we're done. So that's all there is to assembling the slide, except for the sights. That'll be a separate video. Let's test fit this and make sure that everything appears to work correctly. So I've got a barrel. This is a Gray Ghost precision barrel. It's nothing special. It is supposedly a match grade barrel. I took this in on trade along with the Polymer 80 lower receiver. If I was going to buy a barrel, I'd probably buy a threaded one, so I could put a muzzle device on it. All right, so that completes the slide. So we've got the Gray Ghost logo showing through there, and the Gray Ghost logo on the top right there, which you Probably can't see because I never seem to get stuff in frame. It's a little skull on the top there. I might color fill those. Those might look interesting if I added some color to them. Do a white skull and some red logos on there. So I might, I think these roll marks are deep enough to add some color. I might play around with that just to jazz it up a bit because it is kind of plain looking. Anyway, let's go ahead and test this on the Polymer 80 lower receiver and make sure it works. Okay, so I've got this slide put back together. We've got firing pin movement that's proper. Taking off this backing plate, it's best to have some plastic pry tools. Don't use a screwdriver, you'll mar your finish. So these little spudger plastic pry tools you can get off of eBay. So everything's good on this. And we're more or less finished. So obviously I've got to take this down to the range and do some range testing, but that's it for this video with the assembly of the Wuelf slide using the Lone Wolf Distributors upper slide completion kit with a stainless steel guide rod. Thanks for watching.